Here are two checks for the exact same person, the exact same work history, the exact same lifetime of paying in. The only difference is one number. The age they decided to claim. Claim at 62, and that check is cut by about 30% for the rest of their life. Wait until 70, and the check is roughly 24% bigger than their full benefit, again for life. Same worker, same record. A retirement income gap that can run on for decades, decided by a single date on a form. Most people pick that date by feel. They claim the moment they're eligible because they're tired of working, or because a neighbor said grab it before it's gone, or just because 62 is the first door that opens. They never see the actual math underneath the choice. And it is math. Social Security runs on a formula, not a hunch. Here's the thing nobody tells you. There is no universally correct age. Claiming early isn't a mistake, and waiting isn't automatically smarter. There's a break-even point, and which side of it you land on depends on numbers you can actually estimate today. So we're going to build it from the ground up. How your benefit is calculated in the first place, what full retirement age really means, exactly what each year early costs you and each year late earns you, the break-even age where waiting starts to pay, and the personal factors that can override the whole formula. No politics, no panic about the program, just the mechanics. Before you can decide when to claim, you have to know what you're claiming. So let's build your benefit from scratch, because almost nobody knows how the number is actually made. Social Security doesn't look at your last paycheck or your best year. It looks at your whole career. Specifically, it takes your highest 35 years of earnings, adjusts the older ones up for wage growth, so a dollar you earned decades ago counts in today's terms and averages them into one monthly figure. That figure has a name, your average index monthly earnings. And here's a quiet trap. It's 35 years, always. If you only worked 30, the missing 5 years get filled in with zeros, which drags your average down. Now that monthly average gets run through a formula to produce what's called your primary insurance amount, your PIA. This is the bedrock number. It's the benefit you'd get at exactly your full retirement age, before any early cut or delayed bonus. The formula is deliberately tilted to favor lower earners, and it works in 3 slices using markers called bend points. For someone reaching 62 in 2026, you get 90% of the first $1,286 of that monthly average, plus 32% of the amount, up to $7,749. Plus just 15% of anything above that. Those dollar thresholds get reset every year, and they lock in for the year you turn 62. But the 90, 32, and 15% are fixed in law and never move. See what that does? Your first dollars of average earnings are replaced at 90 cents on the dollar. Your highest dollars, only 15. So Social Security replaces a much bigger share of income for modest earners than for high earners, by design. That PIA is the foundation everything else in this video stands on. So you've got your primary insurance amount, your full benefit. The next question is, full benefit at what age? That age has a name, and it's the hinge the entire decision swings on. It's called full retirement age, or FRA. Full retirement age is the age at which you receive exactly 100% of your PIA. Not a penny reduced for going early, not a penny added for waiting. It's the baseline. 0 point on the ruler. Every other claiming age is measured as a discount or a premium against this one number. And here's the part that trips people up. Full retirement age is not 65. That's the old number, stuck in everyone's head from decades ago. It's been pushed back. For anyone born in 1960 or later, and which is essentially everyone planning retirement now, full retirement age is 67. That single fact reframes the whole conversation. When you claim at 62, you're not claiming 5 years before some vague finish line. You're claiming a full 5 years before your actual full retirement age of 67, and the system charges you for every one of those months. When you wait until 70, you're going 3 years past 67, and the system pays you a bonus for every one of those months. So lock this in. 67 is the center. 62 is the earliest you can start retirement benefits, and it's 5 years early. 70 is the latest it ever makes sense to wait, because the bonus stops growing there. Everything in the next 2 sections is just measuring distance from 67, Backward costs you. Forward pays you. Now the heart of it. Exactly what does each year cost or earn? This is where the 30% cut and the 24% bonus come from, and the rules are precise. Go early first. For each of the first 36 months before full retirement age, your benefit is reduced by 0.5% a month. That's about 6 2/3% per year. If you claim more than 3 years early, the months beyond that are reduced by a smaller 0.5% each, about 5% a year. Stack it up against a full retirement age of 67, and you get a clean schedule. Claim at 66, you lose about 6.7%. At 65, about 13.3%. At 64, 20%. At 63, 25%. And at 62, the full 5 years early, your check is cut by 30%. Permanently. That reduction doesn't heal when you eventually reach 67. The lower amount is your amount for life. Now the other direction, delaying past full retirement age. For every month you wait beyond 67, your benefit grows by 2/3%. That's 8% a year. Every year, guaranteed, until you hit 70. Wait the full 3 years from 67 to 70, and you've added 24%. So your check at 70 is 124% of your full benefit. These bonuses are called delayed retirement credits, and they stop dead at 70. Wait past 70, and you simply lose money, because the credits no longer accrue. Put the ends side by side. Claim at 62, and you live on 70% of your PIA. Claim at 70, and you live on 124%. That is a massive, lifelong difference in monthly income, built entirely from when you signed. So bigger checks for waiting, smaller checks for rushing. Obvious answer, just wait, right? Not so fast, because there's a brutal catch. The bigger check only starts later, and you give up years of payments to get it. That trade-off has a name, the break-even age. Here's the tension in plain terms. Claim early, and you collect more checks. They're just smaller. Claim late, and you collect fewer checks. They're just bigger. The break-even age is the point where the bigger late checks have finally added up to overtake the head start the early checks built. Live past it. Waiting wins. Die before it. Claiming early wins. Let's work a clean example. Say your full benefit at 67 is $2,000 a month. Claim at 62, and that drops to about $1,400. Wait to 70, and it climbs to about $2,480. Compare the 62 claimer to the 70 claimer. The 62 person starts 8 years sooner and banks a real pile of money before the 70 person sees a single check. The 70 person collects nothing for those 8 years. But once they start, they're pulling over $1,000 more every month. Do the arithmetic and, ignoring cost of living adjustments to keep it simple, the lines cross at roughly age 80 into the early 80s. And here's the honest caveat most explainers skip, that crossover slides even later once you account for investing those early checks instead of spending them. So this isn't a late 70s bet. Realistically, it lands around 80 and beyond. Before the crossover, the early claimer is ahead on total dollars received. After it, the patient claimer pulls ahead and keeps stretching the lead for every year they live. So the break-even reframes the entire question. It's not which monthly check is bigger. 70 obviously wins that. It's, do you expect to live well into your 80s? If yes, waiting tends to pay more in total. If you have real doubt about reaching that age, claiming earlier can be the mathematically sound move. Here's where most explanations stop. At the math. But the formula only knows averages. It doesn't know you. And 4 real-life factors can flip the break-even answer completely. First, health and family longevity. The entire break-even bet is a bet on your lifespan. If you're in strong health with parents and grandparents who lived into their 90s, waiting is statistically likely to pay off. You'll probably blow past the crossover age. If you have a serious health condition or a family history of dying young, claiming earlier can simply be the better deal, because the big delayed checks do you no good if you're not around to cash many of them. Second, and this one's huge and constantly missed, your spouse. When one spouse dies, the survivor keeps the larger of the two benefits, not both. So if you're the higher earner, delaying your claim doesn't just buy you a bigger check, it buys your widow or widower a bigger check for the rest of their life. Because the survivor benefit is based on your benefit, including those delayed credits. For a married higher earner, waiting is partly a survivor protection move, not just a personal bet on your own longevity. Third, do you actually need the money now? If you're 62, out of work, and the alternative to claiming is running up credit card debt or selling investments in a downturn, then the in-hand check at 62 can be worth more to you than a theoretically bigger check at 70. A guaranteed dollar today can beat a bigger dollar you can't wait for. Fourth, the rest of your money. If you have other savings to live on from 62 to 70, you can afford to delay and lock in that 24% larger, inflation-adjusted lifelong check. One of the best deals in retirement finance. If Social Security is all you've got, you may have no choice but to start it sooner. The formula gives you a number. These 4 factors decide whether that number is actually right for your life. Let's bring it together. Your benefit isn't based on your last job. It's built from your highest 35 years of earnings, averaged and run through a formula to produce your primary insurance amount, the full benefit you'd get at full retirement age. For anyone born in 1960 or later, that full retirement age is 67, and it's the baseline everything is measured against. Claim before it, and you're cut. About 30% at the earliest age, 62. Wait past it, and you gain about 8% a year, up to 24% more at 70, where the bonus stops. Put the extremes together, and your check at 70 can be roughly 77% larger than the same person's check at 62. For life. The formula then hands you a break-even age, realistically somewhere around 80 to the early 80s. And later still once you account for investing the early checks. Live past it, and waiting wins on total dollars. Fall short, and claiming early wins. But the single biggest takeaway is this. The math gives you the break-even. Your life casts the deciding vote. Your health. Your family's longevity, whether you're the higher-earning spouse protecting a survivor, whether you need the cash now, and whether you have other savings. Those override the average. There is no universal right age. There's only the right age for your numbers and your situation. The worst move is the one most people make, claiming on autopilot without ever seeing the math you just learned. If this finally made the 62 versus 70 decision click, if you can now see the actual math instead of just guessing, hit subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel. The money mechanics nobody ever bothered to explain in plain English. And since the smartest version of this plan is delaying your claim while living on your own savings from 62 to 70, the obvious next question is how much you can safely pull from those savings each year without running out. That's a famous rule of thumb with real math behind it. Go watch video 16, the 4% rule, next. I'll see you there.